So I see you sitting there, and in the room that I'm in a chair that's there, and I see next to you someone of a vastly different range of experience and background. And I try to use the diversity or the difference between who you are and what you know with who the person is sitting next to you that has a vastly different who they are and what they know. Because human beings are like that, one to the other. I'm in a 3-ring circus here talking to you, both of you, all of you, everybody. Hello, everybody. But it's hard for me to address everybody. I got a friend recently in Facebook, and I look on their wall to see if I have anything resonant to what they're doing, and usually that has to mean their Pilates, and a lot of that is all about Pilates, because for me that's why I'm here and what this is about. And in this person going live, she's going live sitting out on the steps with her kids inside the house, taking a break, sharing herself. And it seems so much like the audience that she was speaking to was the same audience that I feel I'm speaking to when I live broadcast. Now, recently, it's all been sign language and gesticulation. And I would start with this. I'm pretty sure that's rotating in the right direction, because if you're in the east coast and the sun comes up in the east, that's on this side, then the planet would have to be spinning like this to come up like that, and then set on the west coast, which is over here, right? So, who knows? What I am pretty sure of is that, and so in sign language, when this goes around once, what is that? Were you able to make sense of that? When the earth goes around once, that's one day. And from that, in my previous broadcasts that were all sign language, I went from 1 to the number of days it is until this orientation, this, changes. The solstice, the curve of the planet in space. So I really got into doing this planet coming around like this and hopefully showing. So if this is north-south and it's rotating in that way a little bit, then whatever this axis that it's on, it changes its orientation at the moment of solstice. And it's predictable to the moment. This year, Rocky Mountain time, 3:43 p.m. If you're not on my email list, I wish you were. So you don't have to look it up to know exactly in your part of the world when is the equinox. Because it happens at the same moment in time for everybody, because it's a planetary shift that ancient civilizations looked for to indicate when to plant their crops. And the timing of observing that shift in the path of the earth the attitude of the earth, was the basis of surviving for the whole Inca Empire in South America. And that takes me off into Machu Picchu. And for all of the reasons it is sacred and special, I would point to its rising above the valley to be a point of observation, to be able to see the change in the orientation. If a change happens that you're not able to observe, it doesn't matter much. But one that does and matter, that you can anticipate, and that happens, is a matter of being able to survive in the jungle that we live in. So my opening was my tones. My introduction to the earth, and that when it goes around once is one day. And so today, it's the 8th of June, and solstice is at 3:43 on the 20th of June, where I am. In some parts of the world, it's not the 20th. It's Sunday instead of Saturday. I should do it this way, hold on. It's 10 and 2 more, 11, 12, right? So 10 and 2 is 12, and that's 12 days from now is the 6th month, the 20th day in the year 2020. So in a way, this is like my adding words to what's been going on in sign language over the last number of broadcasts. I enjoyed exclusively signing because it presents the challenge of making sense of the movement that you see, and it doesn't let a particular language get in the way, like English, for me. I apologize that I can't speak to you in your language. But in the previous broadcasts that were exclusively sign language, I was speaking in everyone's language. Hopefully at the meaning behind the sign. Okay, so I got a timer. This is a 3-ring circus today. Because on the one ring, I want to come out and just make a presentation of my talk and be so enthused and share with you 2 things, 2 sensations, 2 feelings that can change the way you experience your body. You experience life, really. And in that regard, the order of things is to come out and do something personal, which maybe I've already done by now and made something personal. But for me, what's personal to me that hopefully attaches or that connects to you goes back to when I was living in Boulder and went to Club Med to try out my ideas on an international clientele. I couldn't afford to travel, so I went to where international culture traveled through. It was at Copper Mountain, 2.5 hours from, that long? From Boulder. And while I did this and got good feedback, it was all based on this notion of mine, or that I'd come to, that the order of what you do and the quality that you do it in matters. Working out, conditioning, physical fitness. The order that you do things in and the quality in which you do them matters. And that was the basis for the structure that formed around that idea. Every morning at Club Med, I taught a early morning stretching and meditation class. And that's how I got labeled, more than but stretching and meditation, and people that have sat behind a desk for the last 51 weeks and are out renting skis, going skiing, want to stretch out before they go. And I think that's humorous because it's noble and a good idea to do that, but it's that in doing it once for a brief moment is hardly the difference in your body of routinely doing anything. Right. So they came, we worked through a pattern of stretches, and within that, somewhere in there, flat on their back, I'd give a mental stretch. And then we'd come back into movement and more back into presence and out into the real world. And off they'd go. Hope somebody's okay. Off they'd go into their day of skiing. When I came back to Boulder, I lived in South Boulder, and Bob Ferrantino's had a gym there, and I walked into Bob Ferrantino's, who was, sort of a haughty guy because he had an exercise PhD in physiology, and guests come to the gym like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was connected to what was going on out in California, I guess is the point, because when I came to him and said I wanted to teach a stretching and meditation class, he looked at me sort of, he had a prominent nose to me as I remember, but he said, "You mean Pilates." And so in the three rings of circus that's going on, the ring of being a presenter and coming in and making something personal that makes a connection, if you're interested in Pilates, which is mostly my slant on things, or the source of my origin as a point of view of things, is from or on Pilates. That's where finding more out about Pilates and discovering what there is to discover about Pilates. And now in ring one, all about being a presenter, after I got personal with you about how it became Pilates to me, or anything personal about me, you in my audience, you know your stuff about Pilates. You've been teaching for years. You've got certifications. You've got confidence. You've seen results. You feel results in your own body as well as in your students. And that's hard to do, and a dangerous path to tread, because you can get hurt yourself and hurt others. In your passion to do more and be more and share more when it comes to the subject of Pilates. So my story really from Bob Ferrantino's was that the Boulder bookstore actually had this book in stock. And that's The Pilates Method of Physical and Mental Conditioning by Gail Friedman and Gail Eisen and Philip Friedman. Don't miss. You need to see that YouTube clip. Just go to YouTube and search Pilates, G-A-I-L-E-I-S-E-N. And you get this wonderful clip. Now I'm off in the other circle that competes with just wanting to make the presentation and talk about the signature presentation that comes after just hearing about what the three-ring circus, the first ring has going on in it. In the second ring, maybe, is the expanded version of what only belongs in the first, what belongs in the second ring and not in the first ring. Does any of that make sense? So, hold on. And even I made notes. I didn't set a timer yet. I sent out an email, and one of you, I think, got that today, talking about the ultimate exercise and questioning my example on a couple of different places. And I wrote back that in my view of Pilates, in the MMP view, this was the expression as is, and the only expression. Because there was an attempt to say, well, there's a lot of, that there is no, see, how can there be an ultimate when there are so many exercises? See, there's a mindless view of Pilates that is based in folklore's roots and self-interest to promulgation, that Pilates has no explanation, and it's all just meaningless to the point that it only is what you make of it. And philosophically, that's not where MMP comes from. So I did the tones, I did the day. I think all the visuals were really cool, and that we're talking about when the Earth changes its orientation of rotation. And that's discernible, and it's critical to, has been historically, critical to the survival of entire civilizations, that they observe what's going on in the world, not only what's going on around them, but